So, boys, over the weekend, we had 3 pretty big Regulation E online tours over here on Limitless VGC. We had the Lily of the Valley tour here with around 180 players. We had the Wide League Saturday Night Rumble with around 100 players. And then we had the big one, the VGC Trainer School Open with over 400 players. This one had some pretty big names in it, like Fede Compo, Wolf Glick, Joe UX9. The list goes on. A lot of really good players were in this tour. And today, we're going to be taking a look at all 3 events and breaking each one of them down to see how the metagame is starting to shape up. But boys, before we jump into it, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing. We're on the road to 3K subs, and I'd like to get there before the end of the year. But anyway, boys, let's start things off here with the Lily of the Valley, Mickey Mouse, Le Marathon. So, as we can see here, number 1, the guy who won it all was Michael, aka the 2nd place at the 2023 World Championships. Obviously, Michael is an absolutely fantastic player, one of the best players in the world, you know, arguably the greatest Pokemon player in the world right now, especially with how good he is at singles with, you know, Rand Bats. If you guys don't know, this guy's like 2600 on Showdown, which is absolutely insane. But anyway, the team he has here is a pretty solid, balanced team, in my opinion. And we do see something really interesting here, which is the Speed Booster Iron Bundle. Now, I'm a huge fan of Iron Bundle. I think Ice Stab right now is incredibly good in the metagame. There's a lot of grass types running around. There's a lot of flying types running around. And if you ask me, Iron Bundle is like the 2nd best speed control. Outside of like, obviously like Tailwind and Trick Room. So maybe you could say it's the 3rd best speed control. But yeah, Speed Booster Icy Wind is just so good on this mon, man. And yeah, dude, I absolutely love this team. We see here as well, we got the Choice Scarf Terrifying Landorus. That is going to be something repeated, like we'll be repeatedly seeing this throughout all these events. I think Choice Scarf Landorus is one of the best ones in the metagame right now. We see a Mungus here, which actually, surprisingly enough, there's not that many Munguses, so it is good to see it back in first place. This could just be new Toy Syndrome, though, obviously, hence why we're not seeing too much of it. Toy Specs Fluttermane with Terra Fairy, obviously just an absolute monster in this metagame. Iron Hands, AV, Terrafire. I do think Terrafire is actually really interesting right now, especially with the Ogre Pawns running around. And obviously, you know, flying types and ice types being really good. So Terrafire is a pretty cool adaptation. Obviously, you hold on to that ground weakness, but regardless, you get rid of the fairy weakness, which is pretty damn good. And Iron Hand's obviously just one of the best statted ones in the game. And then finally, Fire Ogre Pawn here with Swords Dance, a very interesting. I don't want to say it's a very interesting set here, but it does have the Horn Leech. It has the SD, so this one has a lot of survivability on this team. And when you pair that with things like Fake Out, you got a Mungus switching in with like Rage Powder, Side Polar Puff, Landorus with, you know, U-turns. I do think it is a pretty cool set, because if you can get up that SD and then start, you know, healing up or just firing off massive IV Cudgels, this mon does a lot of work. Second team here, though, I'm not even going to, I'm going to try to pronounce it. Jaquin Blanche, I apologize if I butchered that. This is a really cool team, right? So we see here, we got the Okie Dokie. That is the first big thing I see here. Terra Water with lefties. Bulk up, basically double stab plus protect. Really cool. It is cool to see one of the loyal 3 here. And Okie Dokie actually does have quite a few decent performances throughout the these events, so it is nice to see it there. Another Terrafire Iron Hands. I do think Terrafire Iron Hands is becoming, without a doubt, the best set on it. And then we have here Alola Ninetales. I think Alola Ninetales is just really good in the metagame. This is a pretty good, like, fast support mon, really, you know. A lot of people were saying things like Alola Ninetales really struggles into, you know, obviously like manual weather coming out of Tornaduses. But obviously, you know, we see here they have the Encore, so it is really good into Tornadus, where it's like, hey, I'm going to click Encore on you. It doesn't matter if you click Tailwind. It doesn't matter if you click, like, for example, Manual Sunny Day. I'm just going to make sure you can't do anything on turn 2, which I do think is really cool. And then Freeze Dry, obviously just a fantastic move. It's really good into Water Ogre Pawn, which is on the rise. It is also really good into Gyarados, which is, funny enough, the next mon on this team here that is actually also on quite a lot of teams. I'm really surprised with how many Gyarados I've actually seen while, you know, basically doing research of this video, to taking a look at, you know, all the teams that are performing really well. But then to add on to that, it's Icy Wind Gyarados, which is another really interesting tech. I don't know if we've actually seen Icy Wind be common throughout any of the regulations so far, so that is also really cool. And then we got the Roaring Moon with the other Terraflying Booster Energy. Again, I've been praising this thing for the last, you know, week or 2 now. I think Roaring Moon with Knockoff plus Acrobatics is a really good set. It's super good into the metagame. And it is also probably the best Tailwind setter not named Tornadus too, which is really cool. And then finally, we just have a Heatran here, Life Orb free attack with Terra Fairy. I do think that is obviously a pretty good set. I think Heatran, had it not actually been for Fire Ogre Pawn, arguably could have been the other top fire type once again in the metagame. And then here we got Little Darkrai. Pretty cool team here as well. It's got the Water Ogre Pawn, but more of a support set here, obviously with Follow Me, which I do think is pretty cool. We see more Horn Leeches as well, which is kind of interesting. I've been a huge fan of Woodhammer just because of the damage. but I'm also a pretty hyper offensive player. And this is a relatively, standard balanced team, or I don't want to say standard, sorry. I feel like that's not giving the team justice, but it's kind of like a bulky offense team, right? You've got these really hard hitters. You've got the Iron Hands with Fake Out support. You've got the Landorus with Choice Scarf and Intimidate. You've got things like King Gambit as well, which is something we'll also touch on a bit more throughout this video, which I think is pretty cool. More specs, Fluttermane. Cresselia there with the Trick Room. He's also got the technically Stab Moonblast with the Terra Fairy there. Ice Beam as well, which is really good into Landorus, which is a mon that is once again on the rise. So we will actually have to probably start speccing to live those, I do think. But a really, really cool team here. And King Gambit is a mon, I kind of mentioned it there. It's on the rise. I'm seeing this mon everywhere. I've played against it on ladder. I think I did a massive ladder session earlier today. I think against King Gambit, I was like 1-4, dude. This guy was messing me up. I think King Gambit is like really, really sneakily good in the metagame. Then coming in here at 4th place, we have Koja's team. Kojay, I'm not sure how you pronounce that one, but this one to me is actually another really interesting one. So as I've mentioned, I think Flying Stab right now in this metagame is really good. But the biggest issue you have with Flying Stab right now is you look at things like Tornadus has got like Bleak Wind Storm, which is like 80%. It's got Hurricane, which is 70%, or it's got like Air Slash that just kind of doesn't really do enough damage. But then you've got things like you need Rory Moon, who needs Terra really to be strong. You've got Landorus and D-Knight, who also need Terra to be strong. It really feels like there isn't actually a good flying type stab that like just doesn't need to click their Terra right now. And so I've personally been looking at Galarian Zapdos. I've not tested it, but seeing a Choice Scarf Zapdos here with the Defiant, I do think is really, really good. Because in the metagame right now, especially, we've got a lot of Icy Winds. We've got a lot of Bleak Wind Storms. We've got Intimidate running around everywhere. Like, I'm seeing teams with double Intimidate as well. So I do think having something like Galarian Zapdos with Scarf Braybird is really, really cool. Not to mention, I do think Fighting Stab is pretty sick. And with screens on the rise as well, I do think, having Brick Break there is pretty cool. U-Turn, obviously, also really solid. But then the rest of the team, funny enough, is actually like a Sunroom team. So you've got Giraffe there, which is kind of like your anti-Trick Room if you want anti-Trick Room. Obviously, really good when you're pairing up with things like, say, Zapdos, Fluttermane, and Iron Hands. But then you've also just got like your hard Trick Room mode where you've got the Blood Moon Ursaluna, you've got the Torkoal, you've got the, the Iron Hands here. And then, of course, once again, a Specs Fluttermane kind of rounding it out. But yeah, really cool. Main takeaway for this team here is really that Galarian Zapdos. And then the final team I want to take a look at here is, where is he? The guy, Joe UX9. Probably the biggest name player in this event. Obviously, 6-2 is still pretty solid. Obviously, eliminated pretty early, but still made top 16. We see the Hisuian Arcanine. Again, I feel like I've been saying it this whole time. Grass and flying types are really damn good. Rock and Fire hit them really well. Assault Vest is really, really cool on this one as well. I think AV plus Terra Fairy is a solid set. Terra Blast feels really good with the Terra Fairy as well. And then things like Rockslide, Flare Blitz, E-Speed are just really good into the metagame. I'm a huge fan of Hisuian Arcanine right now, and I definitely think it's really good. But we do see another support Ogerport as well here coming out of Joe. We see another Okidogi as well, which is, again, seeing 2 Okidogis in the top 16 is pretty nice. There might actually be more. I'll have to double check that. But yes, once again, we've got the bulk up set there. Drain Punch plus Gunk Shot. I'd be really interested to know why he runs Gunk Shot over Poison Jab. My assumption, though, is probably there's a calc where you kind of need Gunk Shot where P-Jab probably doesn't pick something up. Another Scarf Landorus with Terra Flying. Again, this one's everywhere. A really interesting Fluttermane, though. Booster Speed, I'm assuming it is on this set, which I do think is actually really good. They've dropped Shadow Ball, which I used to think dropping Shadow Ball was bad on this mon, but after using, actually, I'll see if I can pull it up for you guys real quick. So I was like using Paris or whatever you want to call it here, basically doing a breakdown of like the team I was playing today. Spoilers, here's the team. But if you have a look, right, where's my usage stats here? So I brought Fluttermane to 17 games. This is out of 40 games, by the way. So yeah, I brought Fluttermane to 17 games. This is on a fresh alt too. I ran it up, so I was like, I don't know, I'm like 30-10 on it or something like that. But you see the move usage stats here. In 17 games on my Fluttermane, I clicked Shadow Ball. I think that's 1 time. Like, I clicked Icy Wind 9 times, Protect 8 times, Dazzling Gleam. Like, I'm not clicking Shadow Ball. And because of that, I'm actually like looking at Joe's team over here, and I'm really considering actually changing mine up to be similar to his. Probably wouldn't run the Taunt. But yeah, definitely could, consider at least swapping out Dazzling Gleam and also potentially swapping out Shadow Ball, which I do think is pretty damn cool. Taunt's really good into the current metagame, so that's nice. And then finally, to round things out here, Grimmsnarl with screens, Light Clay, Terra Ghost, very standard set for Grimmsnarl. So yeah, it is pretty damn cool there just to see, things like Grimmsnarl picking up. And as I said here, we got 1 Amoonguss in the, actually 2 Amoongusses in the top 8, but my main takeaway for this was there's actually only 2 Tornaduses in the top 16, right? So I think we have, where are they? We got 1 here, and we have another one down here. I believe that's correct, yep. And then there's actually no Tornaduses in the top 8 at all, which to me was pretty insane. I think Tornadus right now is really good. On the ladder, I feel like every other match is Tornadus. So to see not a single Tornadus in the top 8 of this event, and like, as I said again, dude, this event's pretty big, 180 players. So to see no like Tornaduses in the top 8, only 2 in the top 16, that is pretty damn impressive. Now, moving over to the Wide League Tour here, we have some very different kind of results, I guess, compared to the other Lily of the Valley one here. So, first things first here, we have Cody McClark. I believe that's how you say it. Or Cody M. Clark, maybe. And it's funny enough, we were just talking about, hey, Tornadus, you know, not a single top 8 placement. Here it wins it. So, Tornadus, still good. We see another, you know, D-Knight here, Choice Banded. Sorry, not another one, our first one here. Paired it with Qian Pao. But yeah, you know, basically what we've been seeing ever since Series 2, I think. No, was it Series... Yeah, Series 2? No, it was Series 3. Ever since we've had Series 3, I believe, was when Qian Pao was first released into the metagame. But yes, we have Aerial Ace here because, once again, you know, Flying Stab is king right now. And just to have a 60 base power here, move here shows how good it is. But look, this team is honestly really standard. There's not that much to go into. We got Scarf Urshi here, Tornadus, you know, obviously the Urshi Power Knight combo. Flutter Main, Heatran just is a really good fire type. Just a very, very standard team. Not too much really to kind of delve into there. And then we have Lucky Summer here. They're basically running a more of a like balanced Trick Room team kind of here with a setup Ogerpawn. Once again, another Gyarados, we see it here. Another Amoonguss too. So it is good to see, obviously, you know, the Shroom. Maybe it isn't good, actually. I hate Amoonguss. But we're seeing more Shrooms here. More Iron Hands. One's really good. We see Blood Moon Ursaluna paired up with Cress as well. I do think Blood Moon Ursaluna will continue to see play over regular Ursaluna. Obviously, it's really, you know, team dependent. But as I said earlier, I think there's like it really feels like there's 2 Intimidators on most teams. So having something like the Blood Moon Ursaluna is really good. And then Calm Mind is just so broken on this mon, man. Like, especially with like lefties, all of a sudden this mon can really just like go start running through teams. I also do like Terra Grass here as well. I think in my experience, a lot of the time when I play against this thing, I kind of just pin it with like double double Grassy Glide, and you kind of deal with pretty easy. So I do think, you know, Grass Terror there is a really good adaptation to it. But again, we're seeing more Ice Beam on Cresselia. Obviously, you know, with the Landorus picking up, it's very important, I think, to have it. Kind of touched on Gyarados earlier, but Terra Fairy seems to be the play on it. Obviously, Intimidate, Taunt, Waterfall, T-Wave. Very, very standard set there. And then finally, once again, another Fire Ogerpawn here with setup. You know, SD Ogerpawn feels really good. And once again, more Horn Leech. People, for some reason, aren't opting to run the Woodhammer. So again, maybe something I'm personally going to have to test out myself a little bit more. And then coming into the next one here, we have the homie. I believe it's pronounced Tsuyu. Good friend of mine. We've, you know, played on the Ruspero Rayquazas together in some player draft leagues. So yes, you know, I know him pretty well. And yeah, you see here a very cool hyper offensive team. He is actually the first person as well to pull out the Grass Ogerpawn, which I do think is pretty interesting. Scope Lens plus Ivy Cudgel as well. I think makes Ivy Cudgel a 50% chance to crit off the top of my head. So that is really cool. And then obviously, you know, knock off Stomping Tantrum, really good. I think you definitely want Stomping Tantrum on this one because you really struggle to hit like fire types, steel types. So yeah, Stomping Tantrum obviously really helps out with that. But then yeah, look, a relatively standard hyper offensive team. I do think a really, really good hyper offensive team. I mean, as I said earlier, massive fan of Tornadus plus Hisuian Arcanine. I really think Hisuian Arcanine with Choice Band is like the answer to opposing Tornadus matchups. Like if you look at like any normal like Tornadus team, the only real like option they have to like lead into this is like Urshifu, and like Urshifu doesn't really feel like it's everywhere right now. So yeah, pretty cool team here. I do really like the banded Hisuian Arcanine. But then yeah, pretty freaking standard. You know, we got the Rain Dance paired up with the Rapid Strike. Obviously, you know, the Urshi plus Qian Pao is really good. Ogerpawn also really good with Qian Pao. Hisuian Arcanine also really good with Qian Pao. And then finally as well, I'm assuming this is special attack boosting Flutter Mane, but it could also be speed boost, so I'm not too sure. Then the final team in the top 4 here, not too much really to say about it. Basically looks very similar to Emilio Forbes' Worlds team, so is pretty cool. I'm a huge fan of Toy Specs Goldango right now. I think this one's pretty broken. Actually, like I was kind of showing off the stats before. Like if you look at my usage stats on Goldango, I brought it in like 31 games out of like 40. It had a 74% win rate. So yeah, pretty freaking good one if you ask me. But yeah, no, I think this team's pretty standard. I'm a huge fan of Flutterfish with Tornadus. I personally, I think if I was running this team, I would run Dark Urshi over Rapid Strike. But look, I'm sure there's a specific reason he's got it. Could be because he wanted the Firewater Grass Core. But yeah, still really cool team. I think Trick Goldango is good. Bramblegas is still really interesting in the metagame. So yeah, it is pretty cool to see that. And then I guess finally, you know, there's not really too many other teams I want to go into here. Joe UX9 though here did place our top 8 once again. So it is good to see, you know, obviously Joe up here. Makes me feel better because, you know, for those who don't know me, Joe knocked me out of OCIC this year. So yeah, I like seeing him do good because it kind of makes me think I'm still a pretty decent player, you know. But really, the takeaway from this tour, Tornadus is still good, boys. There's 5 of them in the top 8. You see one here, one here, one here, 4th one here, and 5th one here. So, funny enough, we see 2 Tornaduses in the top, 8 of this event, and then, sorry, in the top 16 of this event, and then we see 5 in the top 8 of this event. Actually, there was one other team I wanted to go over. I just completely forgot about it before we went straight to Joe. It's this Weezing team here. So once again, we see another Gyarados, another Alola Ninetales. Aurora Veil seems good. Screens in general seems good. Iron Hands is everywhere. But this team has Weezing. This is a really interesting standard Weezing. Sorry, not standard Weezing, solo Weezing. I think Weezing's really good right now, especially if the team around it is well crafted. I look at this team and I'm like, why would you want to turn off Snow? I mean, doesn't really, like, photosynthesis doesn't matter, but it's like, why would you want to turn off, like, Armor Tail? Why would you want to turn off Intimidate? Like, it feels really weird to me that you would have Weezing on this team. But look, it's a really, bulky physical mon, with, things like Will-O-Wisp, Acid Spray, Sludge Bomb. So it's, yeah, really interesting. I do love this thing as a Will-O-Wisp spammer. I think it's really good. But yeah, definitely a really interesting team here, especially seeing it finish in, like 7th place out of, like, again, 180 players. Sorry, 100 players. This is a 100 player tournament, sorry. I had it mixed up. I don't know why I thought this was the 180 player one. But yeah, so really, really cool there to see Weezing just in the top 8. And then, of course, the final takeaway here is Trick Room is still pretty damn good. I think Trick Room and, like, really, like, I think there's only, like, what, 2 Trick Room teams here, I think it was, in the top 8. But yeah, Trick Room still seems really good. Seeing one here in the, top 2 obviously is, pretty impressive. But yeah, so, like, seeing, like, I guess, Tornadus kind of dominate this event, but then also having, like, Trick Room be relevant, and also just kind of, like, bulky offense as well. It's really nice to see just a balance, really, of the three play styles. And then, finally, we have the VGC Trainer School Open. As I said, this event had quite a lot of big players in it. We have, obviously, Fede here, we have Wolfie VGC, the guy Joe UX9, we have Michael here as well, dude. Just a lot of really top players were in this event. We see some obviously returning players as well from some of the other tours we're looking at, like Little Darkrai and whatnot. But the team that won it all, guys, was Rezu. Now, at first glance, this team seems like a very standard hyper-offensive team. You see Rilla, Torn, Urshi, Ogerpon, Lando, Gold. You're like, damn, Scott, this is very standard. Like, why are we talking about it, right? Rillaboom, pretty standard, right? That's the exact set I'd expect you to run. Tornadus, very interesting. This is the Focus Sash set with Scary Face. No manual weather, which is really interesting. Air Slash as well. The Terra Ghost, I would assume this is probably max, so those air slashes would be doing a lot of damage. Not to mention, you are outspeeding, things like, for example, the Urshifus. And then, speaking of Urshifu here, I think Scarf Urshifu is, like, one of the best mods in the game right now. I love my Scarf Urshis. This is a banded Terra Poison Dark Urshifu. This, in my opinion, is really, really interesting. I've personally been playing a lot of Scarf Dark Urshi, but I do think Poison Banded Urshi actually has a lot of merit. And obviously, it won the biggest event of the weekend, right? There was like over 400 players in this event. And Rezu went 13-1, so obviously it is clearly a really good set. And then we have Ogerpon Fire here, right? It actually says Defiant, but then Hearthflame. Interesting. So my question actually becomes, Nah, this definitely has to be Fire. I'm just looking at it and I'm like, is it fire or is it grass? I definitely think it's fire here. Obviously, you wouldn't be running triple grass, I don't think, here. But you got the Ivy Cudgel, pretty standard. You got the Grassy Glide, because obviously you are paired up here with the guy Rillaboom. But then he's got Bullet Seed. Now, this is super interesting, because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what in the world do you have Bullet Seed for? The only, like, common Sash mod I can think of off the top of my head is like, what, Qian Pao? That's it. And I don't know if Bullet Seed would even pick up Qian Pao. So that is, like, really, really interesting. I would love to know why he's running Bullet Seed. If anyone knows, like, please tell me down below, because, like, I'm kind of shook looking at that. But then another Scarf Lendo. Someone's like, guys, yep, we've been saying that Scarf Lendo, it's great. We all know it. But this is Terra Rock Lando with Rock Slide Rock Tomb. It is double Rock Stab on a Lander. So you've got speed control options. And you've just got even stronger Rock Slides. And again, Rock Slide's really good into the metagame, so I'm honestly not surprised. I feel like that would be really good, like, best of one tech on ladder. And then finally, Golden Go, just, 4 attacks plus spec, pretty freaking standard. But overall, a really cool team. 3 really interesting sets that I honestly was not expecting. Even 4, honestly, if you like count Tornadus's. And then I guess, what's the runner-up, guys? It's a hard Sunroom Expanding Force team that had a YOLO Scarf Dark Urshifu. My god, English. So yeah, we'll go into that in a second, but it was Scarf, Dark, Urshifu, Terra Dark here. Basically just, no Sucker Punch, Double Stab, U-Turn plus Taunt. And then we just have Psyspam plus Ursaluna plus Sunroom. Really interesting that there's no Cresselia on this team. I feel like a Cresselia in the hat slot would be really cool. But I'm guessing they just wanted the fairy type to do a lot of damage. But yeah, 4 massive damage dealers under Trick Room here. Obviously as well, Torkoal plus Armarouge can do quite a bit of work as well. If you get up the Sun for Armarouge, those Heat Waves can put in a lot of work. I personally would have loved to have probably seen the Life Orb on the Armarouge here. But look, I'm sure they've done their calcs. They know this team far better than I do. But yeah, looks pretty standard indeed. Psychic Seed I think is really good because obviously with Roaring Moon running around, you don't want an item. So yeah, I think that basically allows you to like level double up there. Pretty standard Armarouge except Heat Wave over the obviously the Armor Cannon. Good to see Hat still getting play. Obviously then you got Ursaluna, Urshifu, and Torkoal. The Ursaluna here obviously is Headlong Rush as well over EQ. Really interesting to not see a Iron Hands on this team. Normally, like when you're running like the double Trick Room mode like this, Iron Hands is really good with the hat is like the secondary Trick Room mode. Because if your opponent kind of like, tries to prepare for the Armarouge and DD on lead, you just go for like Iron Hands plus hat. But they haven't gone for it. So really interesting there. Yeah, I mean, look, they came second. So I'm sure they were doing something right with this team. Because again, like, let me quickly show you guys how many players were here. Yeah. Like you see, 409 people were in this event. Like, that is pretty impressive to bring a team like this. So yeah. Really cool. And then we actually get a team that is, in my opinion, got some really interesting pieces that we're definitely going to see kind of rising up here. So, Qian Pao, relatively standard set. It's not the normal, Ghost plus Sacred Sword. It is the Dark plus Crunch. I personally love this set. I think Terra Dark Crunch is just super good into Flutter Mains. Like, if you know you've got the speed control, which normally on a set like this, you run Jolly. So yeah, Jolly plus Crunch allows you just to one-shot Flutter Mains. Sometimes Sucker Punch will also do it as well for you. Pretty standard Rillaboom here. Not a standard Lando. It is the Terra Flying set with safety goggles. Pretty standard Flutter Main Choice Spec set. But the real interesting part of this team, and I do think we actually see this a couple times at least, is the Como O plus Gastro combo. Basically, this Como O wants to set up the Iron Defense Body Press stuff. It also has Terra Fire plus Flamethrower to kind of help with the ones it can't normally hit. And then it's just got Gastro because Gastro says, hey, I dare you to try hit me with the border move. I'm a redirect it to me. It's got the Ice Beam as well, which is really good into things like Landorus. Earth Power is also really nice. Clear Swamp can also be really good into the Dozos, which kind of are picking up a little bit, but you don't see a crazy amount of them. But yeah, a very cool team, and definitely a team, worthy of being the top 4 of my opinion. And then finally, to round out the top 4 here, we are back to a relatively standard hyper-offensive team here. Tornadus, normal set. Lando with AV with Terra Water. It's kind of the bulkier set rather than obviously, the Scarf Terra Flying. Urshifu Rapid with the Focus Sash. Another relatively standard set. Probably like the second most played set to the Scarf set. We have Choice Specs Fluttermane with Misty Terrain, which I did actually think was quite interesting. Ogerpon with Power Whip. No one wants to run Woodhammer. I would love to know why they aren't running Woodhammer. Maybe it's because I haven't done like really much calcing yet. I'm kind of just like testing things on the ladder. I haven't really gone like too in depth with my calc yet. Maybe there's a reason they're not running Woodhammer. I'm sure there's a reason for it. But yeah, Power Whip's accuracy is not the greatest. And then of course, finally, King Gambit. Look, I've said it a few times. Gambit feels really damn good right now. I do think this mon into the Icy Winds, into the Bleak Windstorms, into like Charms as well. Like we also saw like some Flutter Mains with Charm. Obviously because they don't want to get Sucker Punched. But yeah, I do think King Gambit is like a really slept on one right now, and definitely on the rise. Then finally, boys, we just got a couple other, unique teams here I want to take a look at. The team that plays 5th here, we have a relatively like standard, like bulky offense team kind of with like Alola Ninetales plus Excalibur. I do think Bax is like really good right now. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Icicle Spear plus Scale Shot with the other loaded dice is really good. We do see here as well Disable on the Alola Ninetales here, kind of playing it more as like a more supportive mon, I guess. Like, yeah, sure, you can get the fail up, but against things like, for example, the Tornadus, you can kind of just disable their moves, start pivoting around. Rillaboom, standard Rillaboom set. Scarf, Landos, pretty standard stuff. We have the old Grass Heat Train here with Heat Wave plus Earth Power. Will-O-Wisp as well, which I do think is a really good tech, especially into, most of the what's it called, the Ogerpawns. Also really nice into the Urshifus, because with Terra Grass, you should be able to tank a hit from either of them and burn them. And then finally, Ogerpawn here. We've got the Grass one. Kind of a, I don't want to say a support set, but it does have the Taunt on it, which I do think is really good for those kind of 4th slots on the Ogerpawn. But yeah, basically dual stab once again. It's got the Horn Leech. No one wants to run Woodhammer. Another really interesting team here as well I want to take a look at is Bat's team. Now, Bat, once again, dude, there's a Alolan Ninetales. People keep saying it's bad, but I think Screens is really good. And I do think Screens next to Galarian Moltres is also really damn good. I actually love this team here by Bat. You know, I've kind of touched on in the past, like the Screens teams I liked. In the past, I liked Grim, Lando plus Shroom. I think Scarf Lando paired up with like that redirection grass type that's like can heal up the ally is really good. And then obviously, you know, Screens is just really solid as well. But essentially, the game plan on this team is you kind of get Galarian Moltres behind Screens, you get up that nasty plot, and then all of a sudden you start cycling, right? You get up the Aurora Veil, you know, you pivot into your Sinistra. You know, Sinistra is like, it's able to go for the Strength Saps, the Rage Powders, you know, Rocky Helmet, Hospitality up the Galarian Moltres. You also have things like Scarf Landorus, you know, going for the quick U-turn into the Sinistra, and just stuff like that. And then you've got your Breaker in like Urshifu Rapid here, which is like really good at kind of just getting things that kind of annoy you. And then finally, AV Tran, just a really good mon. I love AV Tran into Flutterfish. I think that's really good. So having answers to things like Flutter Mane, which is like what you really need with Galarian Moltres, because sometimes you don't always just want to click your Terra Poison, especially when there's things like Landorus on the other team, right? If you go Terra Poison to, you know, allow yourself to kind of live the Flutter Mane, all of a sudden you're just getting like one shot by these Stomping Tantrums, and it's not a fun time. So having things like, you know, the Heatran there to kind of help out with the Flutter Mane, and then you know, allowing you to preserve that Terra is pretty damn important. Now, I just want to take a look at some of, you know, the top players that we know are good. We got Fede's team here. Fede's team is pretty, you know, pretty standard, right? It's like a bulky, like balanced offense with like a hard supporting Sinistra is kind of the way I look at it, right? We have the Water Ogerpon here with SD plus Horn Leash. We have a Scarf Lando, Chien Pao, obviously, you know, really good. Flutter Mane with Booster. Again, on a team like this, I'm guessing it's Special Booster. Not entirely sure. Iron Hand's pretty standard set. And then Sinistra here. It's got the Rage Powder. It's got the Life Dew. It's got the Machigacha and the Strength Sap. This guy's job is kind of just to make sure his friends stay alive, redirect when needed, and kind of just heal things up. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Fede's team here. I think it's a really cool, like, bulky offensive team. And yeah, it's really nice. Sinistra, Iron Hands, and Lando, I think, is just a really cool, like, defensive core. And then obviously, you know, when you got things like Chien Pao plus, you know, Lando, you put a lot of pressure on the board. Then we have Wolf Glick, the world champion, the 2016 world champion, the world champ diff, baby. With definitely one of the most interesting teams we saw for the entire weekend. That is a Snorlax plus Como-O, like, setup Trick Room team. It's interesting, right? We got the Lando with Choice Scarf. Obviously, we know what that does. It's great. We've got the Iron Hands with Assault Vest. We know what that does. It's great. We've got the Sinistra on this team. That's like a Trick Room support. We know what it does. It heals up its allies. It sets up the Trick Room. You know, it kind of, you know, stays alive with Strength Sap. It's great. Clefairy. This is actually the first Clef we've kind of touched on today. Really interesting. It is completely useless if it gets taunted. Protect, Follow Me, Helping Hand, and Heal Pulse. Really good on this team. Because when you look at the two basically setup sweepers on this team, right? You got Snorlax, which under Trick Room is insane. Protect plus Belly Drum, and then you got Facade plus High Horsepower, which is really good. And then Como-O with Road Spray, Terra Steel with Clangorous Soul, Clanging Scales, and Flash Cannon. Two really cool setup mons. I've actually lost to a couple Snorlaxes on ladder, and I do think Como-O is like really, really good into the metagame as well. Fantastic into a lot of the Ogerpon forms. And then, yeah, just a really, really all-around interesting team by Wolf. I know he did stream it as well, so if anyone like wants to check out the VODs and whatnot, I'm pretty sure it's on his YouTube channel. So you can go check out the VODs and basically to see how he played it, how he piloted it. And I think he'll also be releasing this, the spreads in the near future, so we'll see when that happens. And then finally, for this event, we had the guy, Joe UX9, once again top 16. I think he went like top 16 and top 8 in like all 3 events, which is pretty good. We also had Michael here, just falling shy of the top 16 placement. But same, you know, pretty similar record here as Joe. But yeah, both of which were running the same team that they had in previous events. And of course, guys, as well, I will leave a link down to this down below. You know, we see some more people that we looked at earlier, obviously a little darker and whatnot. But yeah, I'll leave this down below if you want to take a better look. But again, there's 400 teams here. I don't really want to go into all of these teams. I'll be here all freaking day if I do. But yeah, a really, really cool event. Lots of stuff to look at here. I hope VGC Data put out like a post with like stats, because I would love to see like an actual stats breakdown from this event. But obviously, yeah, with 400 teams, I can't go through all of them. So yeah, but I guess, guys, finally, before we wrap things up, what was like my takeaways from this like event in particular? Everything seems good. Like you see, Tailwind was good, Trick Room was good, Balance seemed good, Screen seemed really good. There was 3 Urshifus in the top 4, which is like, I don't think there was that many Urshis in like the top 8 in the last events, but having 2 Dark Urshis, I think, in the top 4, 1 Water, it shows Urshi's still really good, guys. You know, I know people were saying like maybe it's gonna fall off a bit, and like I think it will. I don't think it'll be the 50% usage it was. And Dark Urshi will definitely rise up more as well, I think. But Urshi's not going anywhere. The mon is still really freaking good. And then I guess just like if we take a look at all three events as a whole, I think Chen Pao matches up insanely well into the metagame. As we said, there's grass types everywhere, there's fly types everywhere, there's ghost types everywhere. Ice Spinner, Sacred Sword, and Sucker Punch seem insanely good into the metagame. I think Crunch is also really good into the metagame. Indeedee and what's his name? Rillaboom also seem like they're kind of everywhere. So Ice Spinner obviously getting rid of terrain is also really, really solid. Scarf Landorus is an absolute monster, dude. Like this guy feels like it's on every other team. Like I mean, you have a look here, right? What we got first, we got third, fourth, fifth, sixth. What's that? 8th, 9th, 10th. Like I don't know if they're all Scarf, but I'm pretty sure most of them would be. So yeah, Scarf Landorus seems really good. Ogerpon, Water, and Fire are clearly the two winners of the group. I believe also outside of Tetsuya's grass, that was the only grass we saw. And then also on top of that, we didn't really see any stones, which is kind of sad. I do think stone has a place in the metagame, but it's definitely in the most awkward position with its typing. What else? Kind of think like, yeah, I said it before, Urshifu's still good. I think good flying types are like the key to the current metagame. Amoonguss does feel like it's kind of dropped off a little bit, but that could just be new toy syndrome. Okidogi really seems like it's the only of the loyal three that's kind of doing anything right now, and even then, like Joe feels like, you know, one of the few people actually piloting it. I think outside of Joe, we saw like maybe 2 in the top 8 in other events. What else? The dragon types right now seem really good. I think Roaring Moon and Komo-O in particular are like on the rise. Obviously Baxcalibur I think is also really solid. But yeah, like dragons right now, they feel good. They really good answers into the Ogerpons. And also with dragons being good, Chen Pao is good, guys. Booster Iron Bundle as well. Guys, please start playing it. I need to test it out more myself. Booster Bundle seems absolutely insane into the metagame. And yeah, I think that's really about it. Screens looks good. Everything looks good. That's kind of my main takeaway from this. It looks like a lot more balanced metagame than what we had with Regulation D. I just feel like everything's good. Trick Room seems like it's at an all-time high. Screens finally seems like it's good with Urshifu's usage going down a bit. Snow, like, finally feels like it's, like, up there as, like, one of the 3 best weathers. You know, rest in peace, Sand. Unfortunately, Titan needs some help. Please give him, like, Draco Vish and Excadrill. I'm pretty sure Excadrill is coming back, in the next DLC, but we don't know about Vish. Boys, thank you for reaching the end of the video. If you enjoyed the content and you want to support the channel, smash the like button and consider subscribing. Your support means the world to me. Also, if you want to support the channel further, you can become a member. All money I make will be reinvested into the channel and traveling to play VGC. And finally, boys, join the Discord. In there, we talk all things Pokemon, not just VGC. We also talk about other games, anime, and much, much more. I hope to see you there. But anyway, boys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.